Hello, Targar friends. Hey, everybody. It's Jason Blaha here, and once again, it is time for another Orc Mode workout, and today was Dynamic Effort Bench Press Day. But a quick reminder, for those of you who watch these every day, please click like down below. Help me keep the likes higher than the dislikes. Just reach down there and do it. Thank you so much. Today was the final week of the wave, and the weights moved way slower. Based upon this, and especially the first couple sets, it is not as explosive as I need it to be. But we're at 60% max plus 25% chain tension, so I'm locking 85% of my max at the top. So I think, even though that's our standard waves, I think just because of my particular speed, I might do better shifting the whole wave down 5%. And for some people who say, Jason, I thought you said people aren't unique snowflakes. They aren't. That's one of the standard practices you do. If the bar speed isn't correct based upon your current speed levels, you adjust, right? Just like we don't all do sets of 10 with 315 on the exact same exercise. We all use slightly different weights. We are at different stages of development and speed and explosiveness and things. So for me, I feel like, because I was actually quite happy with the last wave with 5% less bar weight, and again 5% being 5% of my max. So we're not talking about 5% difference on the bar. We're talking about 5% of the total max being applied to the bar. So if your max is 300 pounds and you're using 50%, that doesn't mean 5% more does not mean you go up 7 pounds. It means you go up 15 pounds, right? It's 5% of your max. So in this case, it was a little slower than I'd like. And a couple of them, right when I hit the top, I struggled to get the groove of the lockout. And again, that's tricep, that's bar path. And we know my triceps need more work, and my pecs need more work. But my shoulder feels good. So we have more or less rehabbed the shoulders. I think for a while, there's always going to be a little bit of tenderness in certain areas, and I'm going to have to continue to do mobility work for it and keep it moving all the time, and I'm gonna have to pay attention to it. But we're now at a point where it's not affecting my strength. It doesn't hurt when I lift. None of these exercises I did today caused any tenderness or inflammation in the shoulder joint or the rotator cuff, and we hit quite a few different angles, so that's good. That means we are back to where we were. We can go back to progressing. We're going to get back to the 350 plus bench, because people forget that. I've actually had some trolls come and say, oh, you're benching it so it's like, well, yeah, I just had a bunch of shoulder problems from pull-ups, not even related to my pressing. So, of course, my bench is down a little. Now it's all coming back up. Okay, we're going to hit 350 again. We're going to hit 375. I've got 4 months to hit this year's goals. I got sidetracked. I got set back a couple months. But I thought I was going to easily reach that goal a couple months ago before I got sidetracked. 4 months. All right, we'll see if we can do it. We're still going to get better than what I was. And we're going to address everything in its entirety, right? We're addressing everything better. So, what am I going to do with the speed benching? Instead of doing 50, 55, 60 plus 25% accommodation, I'm probably going to do 45, 50, 55. Because my bar speed was still good with 55% last week. So, we know that's kind of going to be my sweet spot, I think. And it should just explode up with 45%. That's going to be easy. Because the next wave is going to be bands. And it's going to be fun because I'm going to be over to safety squat bars, and I might work in my sumo deadlifts for this coming wave also. But benching, the only thing that's going to change is going to be the bands. And I'm going to keep the same bar. I want the extra range of motion. I want the extra stretch on the chest at the bottom. But yeah, I'm just really unhappy with the speed even watching this today. It needs to be faster. It was so much faster last week. But the upside, I PR'd on a lot of supplemental lifts. So, what did I do today? I had said last time, look, my goal is going to be to get to 225 for the floor presses and start trying to hit AM reps with them. But I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to get 10 today. I had to think it through and assess how I felt as I warmed up a little bit. How heavy did like 135 feel? I'm like, can I go up to 225 today? I'm like, as long as I grip this bar super tight, I can go up to 225. And I managed to get all 3 sets of 10. I thought I was going to try to get an 11th, but I hit the uprights on like rep 9 or something, or 8. I think it was rep 9 on the final set, so I had to stop at 10. 10 felt grindy. But each of these, the 10th rep was pretty challenging. Like the first 2 sets, I might have been able to hit an 11, maybe. They'd have been grindy. But we got 3 by 10 with 225. Okay. It's the first time I've been able to do that again. A lot of chest work for me there. Okay. So what's going to be a benchmark here? I'm going to try to work with 225 with whatever bar I do on this. My goal is going to be to AMRAP that last set. Okay. From now on, I'm going to rotate through floor pressing. If I have to, I'll rotate through bars to avoid accommodation, avoid overuse. We are going to hammer the floor press and the JM press. Okay. In addition to extra pec and tricep work. Floor press and JM press. These helped me build my bench last time, but now I'm going to do it really wide. Why really wide? Because I need my wide grip bench to be good too. I need my wide grip bench higher than my closed grip. It's just, I've got to make it happen. And I don't want to do any rep work, real rep work with a wide grip bench. So we can do it with floor press because it doesn't quite put the shoulder in the same position. And it's forcing me to learn to get tight again. For me, floor press is very uncomfortable if I don't get my hands positioned perfect. So it's forcing me to learn to squeeze that bar really tight again. Something I struggle to do with the shoulder inflammation. And it's what I was doing again when I really, really hammered that big PR and got a bunch of those like 250 closed grip for 10 presses, the 352 closed grip press. Was getting back into finding that just that perfect grip and remembering to squeeze the bar super hard. I got out of the habit because it was making my shoulder hurt. So I'm getting back into the habit now, and that's what I'm having to do to keep the floor press comfortable. I've got to get super, super tight because we can't really, we're forced to almost do flat back. We can't use leg drive really, and so I've got to get tight so I can get a little bit of an arch to get my shoulders comfortable, and I've got to squeeze the bar super tight. Okay, that's the only way it seems easy on my shoulders. So by doing it really, really wide, I will go ahead and build up my wide grip benching with this. Okay, and I'll keep doing closed grip for the speed bench because I'm faster with closed grip, and that's fine. That'll be my closed grip work will be the speed bench. Floor press will be wide grip. But we got the 3 by 10. We got it. So the goal, when I can get to 15 reps with 225 on the final set, okay, and I'll use those to AMRAP. I'll keep a little bit in reserve the first couple sets, and then I'll AMRAP that last one. Now, people say, why are you only doing 3 sets of that? Just like the reason I only do 3 sets of stuff like the good mornings. These are my big barbell movements that carry over to my main lifts. They still have a recovery factor. I would rather do most of my volume with exercises with a really good stimulus to fatigue. Okay, so JM press. Why JM press today? Why did I do 8 sets? I started looking at it. I don't need the skull crushers. Okay, if we really think about elbow health and everything else, I don't need the skull crushers. I can do lots of variations of the JM press. This is a pretty standard one for me. This is the one that's most comfortable for all my joints, the way that I do it here, where I lower the bar to. So I'm not actually taking this all the way above my face. I'm lowering it to my neck. So again, for those curious, it's like from this angle, like it almost looks like a closed grip bench. Not really, because my elbows are tucked. They are tucked. So think of it as a closed grip bench to your neck, but keeping the elbows tucked to the side instead of flaring. It's mostly tricep. Obviously, there's a little pec and delt, but this is mostly tricep. This is a true tricep exercise. And I realized I don't need the single joint skull crusher right now. Why? Because I do the band work. Every upper body day, I do a bunch of band press downs. That really actually is a single joint exercise. In addition to doing it for my tendons and restoration and recovery, I do it in a second workout on both of my pressing days. That's actually enough for a single joint. The JM press has really, really helped bring my bench up before. Phases where I had done the most floor pressing and JM presses, I saw the most improvement in my bench. I'm going to just use variations of these over and over and over. People say, well, what variations can we do? I can do reverse bands on these. I can do chains on these. I can use my axle bar. Okay. So that gives me 3 different variations right off the bat. So I have at least 4 different types of JM presses I can just easily do. Not even going to the JM floor press or anything. I can do them on the bench. And it gives me variation. lets me change things up. But these got hard as I got deeper. I managed to get 15. I felt like I had a rep in reserve on the first set with 15. I went up a hair because I did 15s last time with this. And so I went up 5 pounds. And I got 15 on the first 6. I think I got like 14 or 13 on the 7th. And I think on the very last set, the 8th one, I only got something like 10 or 11 reps. I lost count because it started getting really hard. Like I felt like I was going to have to grind and drop it. So the very, very last set became pretty much a limit set for me. So I wasn't able to complete all of it for 8 sets, but it was still a challenging set. So we did all of our tricep volume off this. And you know what? 8 sets for triceps after doing speed bench with chains and 3 sets of floor press, that's actually a lot of volume. But we chose, something fairly easy to recover from, the JM press. And it still gives some benefit to things like the chest and the interior delts a little bit. Not ideal, but we're going to keep the triceps getting all this stimulation. I've got to have the tricep work. But the other thing to consider is that I'm going to do the band press downs later too. So people who are like, well, do you think this is all the tricep work you could handle? Well, no, I'm going to do several sets, a minimum of 3 sets of band press downs later. So that gives me some really high rep single joint stuff. It'll help keep my tendons healthy. It'll help my triceps, a little bit with active recovery. But they're basically to failure. So I pick a band that I can do at least 30 reps with, about 30 to 35 reps to failure, and that's what I do. So I'll do those later today. So triceps will get a lot of work. So the chest gets all the other work today. The floor press, and then I'm going to do flies afterwards with the chains, which those I took the volume up just a hair using the same weight. Managed to get like 1 more rep for some of the sets, and then I managed to add in a 5th set. And I took it all the way to 16 instead of 15. So again, the chest work. And I'm going to need that because I need the floor press to go up. And what's involved with the floor press is going to be a lot of pec, a lot of tricep. So again, triceps are still being treated with a priority. You don't see me adding 8 reps of supplemental lifts for the chest. I'm going to do a lot. Triceps are still getting a little more priority, particularly when we factor in the band work. Because I've had someone say, Jason, you talked about triceps. Why are you doing your chest too? Well, I'm doing both. But we're picking exercises that are easy to recover from. Okay, they're easier on the joints overall. And again, we're using relatively light weights with a lot of volume just for hypertrophy. And we're hypertrophying these muscles in a way that will help with the benching. The floor press has direct carryover. But 3 sets of that twice a week, as long as they're really challenging sets and we're trying to progress on it, that's enough for my supplemental work. Keeping in mind, we're going to max bench and speed bench every week. So after that, it's going to be all about hypertrophying the right muscles. And obviously all the upper back and lats and everything still need to come up. But that's going to be obviously the other half of the workout. But this is the last set, and this one was hard. Like I was out of steam. My triceps were done. I'm doing this and I just couldn't finish. So for those curious right now, I'm lowering it to my neck, above my neck. It's not going above the face now because I find that this is a really good angle for me. Like it's comfortable. It doesn't beat my shoulders up in any way. It's easy on my joints, and it hammers the medial head of that tricep really, really hard. Which, again, is the part of my tricep that really, really needs a lot of work to get my bench up. Because that muscle feels like it's definitely a limit on a lot of my benching. And we did chain flies. For those curious, that first rep is me pressing it into place. I'm basically doing a dumbbell press. And then I start doing flies just to get it into position. But again, these are hard with chains. And yes, it's slightly deloaded at the bottom, and I wish I had dumbbells. And people's like, why don't you get dumbbells? Guys, I don't want to pay the amount of money right now that dumbbells cost. Getting anything is hard. Like Rogue doesn't even have adjustable dumbbell stuff in stock. And I don't want really crappy dumbbells. I don't want stuff I'm going to beat up. And I don't really have the room, and I don't want a full rack of non-adjustable dumbbells. So options are limited. And everything out there is absurdly expensive right now. And even then, if I eventually get the Rogue ones, I'm still going to be out like $900 for their full adjustable dumbbells, and depending on how I figure out the weights and stuff. That's assuming they ever get the handles and plates and stuff in stock, and I'm ready to buy them. I mean, dumbbells would be useful for a lot of this stuff. But in the meantime, I can make chains work. I mean, they'd be useful for my upper back, right? They would be really useful there. They'd be useful for some of the chest stuff. You know, I'm not going to lie, dumbbells would be beneficial right now. But again, it's a matter of prioritizing spending the money, and prioritizing when stuff even comes in stock. There's other stuff I've bought that I'm waiting on. I'm still waiting on, hasn't even been shipped. There's things that I want to get that are a priority to me that I can't even get. Okay, there's certain rack upgrades and stuff that I want really bad that are unavailable. Like, you just can't get them at all. And I have very specific model specific needs for those. So I can't just use anybody's crap, junk, knockoff stuff. But, you know, dumbbells would be helpful. But in the meantime, the chains work. They work quite well for this. And again, they're limit sets, and it's higher reps, so it's going to be lighter weight. But again, making sure my chest is growing. As much as I argue about the tricep being a limit, my chest is a limit on wider grip benching. So why don't I just go ahead and make sure that both are growing maximally? Okay. Even though I'm slow cutting, it will be losing weight, I have enough body fat that I can still recomp while slowly losing weight. So we need to do that. Okay. I need to get a good bench, and the only way that's going to happen is going to be, for at this point, I think probably pushing the floor press and then getting my pecs and triceps built up. Obviously more upper back and stuff too, but that's going to affect multiple lifts. I'm doing a lot of upper back work just because I need it for more than one exercise. It'll help all three of my lifts. And we'll get more specialized into some of that coming up too, like with the safety bar stuff. But we did 5 sets of these today. First time I've taken it to 5. And all of them were within 1 rep of failure. A couple of them were failure. And this last set, I really had to grind out some reps. So again, progress. We're keeping the weight the same, but we picked up reps here and there, and then we added another set. Volume going up. These were surprisingly easy on the first couple sets. Even turning my elbows out, so that if you guys notice a lot of those, you'll see the elbows actively turn out. That means I've locked. Okay, that means that my lats have extended. And some people will point out, like with at least 1 or 2 of my arms, like, it doesn't look fully locked. That is my lockout. Like, I can't pull my arm straighter than that. That's my joint. So everyone's joints are built slightly different, and there's no mobility work you can do for that. That is the way my skeleton is built. So I have a few degrees of not lockedness, but when my elbows turn out, that means we're locked, and I'm extending the lats. I'm in full scapular protraction. And then I'm in retraction at the top. So my range of motion, it's like the range of motion is really long. Look how far I'm moving. But again, due to my overall structure, and this is again one of the things I've said, this is probably one reason I'm really strong at close grip bench relative to wider, is that's my range of motion. So what happens when I touch my chest with a close grip bench? That last couple of inches compresses my lats. It turns them into a spring, and then they pop back out when I go to press. So when people are like, you're super fast off the chest on close grip, why is it? Well, that's why. Because my lats act like a slingshot. Okay, they push the arms forward because my lats get compressed by the bar and the weight pushing down on my arms. Because this is my range of motion. This is where my lats touch. So like my lats touch together, I can pinch my shoulder blades together and pinch my lats and traps together. Like I could pinch your finger right there. So that range of motion you see right at the top when I do these, if your finger was under there up through the floor between my shoulder blades, I would pinch your finger really hard at that point. I would squeeze it. Okay, that is my range of motion. So again, it's kind of an interesting thing with the close grip benching. In a perfect world, I think I can get all that development in that area big enough to where I can get that same effect with a wide grip. I just get it thicker, and then I can slingshot out of the bottom of that too, and use the bigger pecs I'm building to get that weight moving faster. But 5 sets of 20 on these, and I think the final set I managed to bang out like 1 more rep. I reached up and I'm like, let me try to just see if I can squeeze 1 more. So we ended up doing 1 extra rep. And then these, I bumped the weight just a hair and still managed my 6 sets of 15. A little bit of rest pausing on some of the final sets or the final reps. Again, super strict wide grip we don't go above the lower chest. This is how you keep this safe for your shoulders while still lighting everything up. My shoulders feel really good after I do these. And again, a lot of it has to do with that internal rotation, because one of the things I noticed when I was rehabbing my shoulder is that a lot of times my shoulder would crackle, and when I would go into like some internal rotation for some mobility stuff, my shoulder would make like 2 really loud pops, and then everything would stop hurting for an hour. And then I had like full range of motion and mobility after that. So it was interesting with that, but it always took some internal rotation to do that. So this movement with the internal rotation seems to really make my shoulder feel good. So it's interesting. It's just something I noticed with the same movements when I was rehabbing my shoulder a bit. So when I would do a movement similar to that with that right side, it would like almost pop stuff into place. And then my shoulder would feel great. So I've noticed I get the same effect with these when they're weighted. I just get like a nice, warm, comfortable feeling through my shoulder. It's kind of like it just feels good. And I can move it really, really well after these sets. Like I have good range of motion. So it seems to actually be somewhat therapeutic for me, even though I'm using this to build my shoulders up. But again, the name of the game here, yes, I'm going to slowly progress on this, but we need to keep the weight strict. We need to keep it light enough that I can do really high reps. Like I need to be able to hit 15. Okay, I don't want the extra axial loading of a heavy weight, and we need to keep it light. And that's the thing we need to do with a lot of these smaller muscles up through the shoulders and everything, is keep in mind this isn't about moving the most weight. We're going to move big weight when we max out on all this stuff anyways. And I move big weights on both max effort days. This is about finesse. This is about just building as much muscle as we can while recovering from it without beating our joints up. And you know, people will argue, and this is almost another topic I need to eventually cover, as I continue to drop body weight and work on things, we could make arguments about less functional muscle. We could make arguments about sarcoplasmic growth. But let me point this out. If I am gaining even sarcoplasmic muscle, am I not keeping my energy turnover higher? If I'm at a given calorie amount, I'm in a very, very tiny deficit, losing body fat, if I'm gaining sarcoplasmic muscle weight, am I losing fat more quickly? Yes. Am I getting metabolic benefits? Yes. When it comes to pound for pound, when you go to cut water for a competition to make weight, is it easier to cut water out of your muscle tissue, even if you think it's useless muscle, or your fat tissue? Which one's easier to cut water from and then reload and supercompensate? Muscle. You could argue all day long about non-functional muscle and all that support muscles of my upper back. Well, I just need it to be thick and full and give support strength. It's not really a primary mover in most of my lifts. It just has to be tight. Well, if that muscle in that area gives me a bigger carb sink, when I deplete and cut carbs before I make weight, what happens? I'll drop water weight even easier, and we supercompensate even more. So the better your overall body composition is, the better of a time you're going to have making weight for competitions, for any sport. And then you get better supercompensation in those areas. It means they get fuller and thicker and give you better support. Then we did my 3 sets of curls. I added 5 pounds on these because I was able to get like 23 reps the other day on the final set. So I'm like, let me try to go up. The first set to 20 was pretty easy. I had a rep or 2 in reserve. Second set, it was pretty much 20 was about all I had without rest pausing. Final set, I rest paused the last 2 reps, and I think I got like 21 again. I managed to get past 20. So again, 3 sets of this is good. Why am I doing these? Why am I doing these at all? To work my biceps in a different way from what all my pulling is doing. Keeping in mind, I do 20 sets of inverted rows a week. That's a lot of bicep. Doing 12 sets of upright rows. And people have pointed out who've done them, man, when I do them wide grippy, I feel a pump in my biceps. Like, yeah, I do too. This is just making sure. If I do these twice a week, I'm making sure we're hitting a different angle of the bicep with that supine grip. Making sure that muscle's getting work so we get more bicep development. Doing a movement because I'm coming all the way down and letting it stretch the bicep and using that fat bar. it helps with the insertion points where the tendon inserts into all of the forearm and everything, helps build the forearm a little bit around there. I want to reduce my chances of a bicep tear. Okay, this is going to be a helpful tool in doing that, in addition to building the work capacity of my biceps. Why is that useful? To get my rowing up. Make sure biceps are not limiting my rowing, because I do need to get stronger at those things to keep building my back. And if biceps are the weak link, then the biceps need to come up. There's multiple good reasons to do this beyond just saying, hey, I need bigger biceps, bro. And plus, it'll help give me bigger biceps, bro. But it was a good workout. Happy with some of the PRs and everything. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.